welcome everybody, and welcome to the midweek edition of the 4-Star Chicago Sports Podcast. We are the Barely There podcast, and the Bears are barely there right now. Kyle, how you doing today, brother?
Sean, in terms of Bears, not so good. Everything else, pretty good, man. Pretty good.
Are you dreading Sunday as much as I am?
I am. I might watch the game with my eyes closed.
What's up, Aunt Mass? Thanks for jumping in, brother.
What's going on, Aunt Mass?
We do have some breaking Bears news, but it was actually earlier in the day. We'll just cut right to the chase here because we are a little bit behind schedule. Guys, thank you for joining us a half an hour late today. We had a basketball podcast to do before this, so we jumped right into this. So next week we will be back at 6 o'clock, our normal starting time. On this Ideal Amusement Chicago Bears Green Bay Packers preview, the Chicago Bears made a wonderful roster move today.
Couple of them this week.
What's up?
Couple of them this week. All news out of Hallis.
Well, Nate Davis is gone, guys. And I'm just going to start this off because it's going to be me bashing the Bears a lot in this podcast today. I'm just not going to lie because I'm so angry. I'm so pissed off about this season right now. But Nate Davis is gone. The Bears ended up paying him $20 million for 13 starts. It's an absolutely dreadful free agent signing for the Chicago Bears. Just another failure of a free agent signing. I'm sorry. We can go through this a little bit more, Kyle, and maybe you could talk me off the ledge as we go. But the Chicago Bears did sign Ricky Stromberg to their practice squad. And the former third-round pick out of Arkansas was considered one of the best centers coming into the 2022 NFL draft, or 22 season. He was drafted in 23, 97th overall in the third round. I believe it was by the Washington Redskins. So there's a guy that the Bears.
Yeah, he's had some injury in his past, but hopefully they found like a diamond in the rough there. You know, a third round pick is certainly not to be taken loosely, man. I mean, that's supposed to be a valuable player for your team. That's somebody who should contribute. So hopefully the Bears found something there. Real quick on Nate Davis, guys. Nate Davis started 13 of a possible 26 starts. The Bears ended up paying about $20 million, so that's not good. I mean, that's one of the worst free agent signings the Bears have had in a long time. Not just ryanpoles, but in a long time in general. And just so you guys know, if any other team decides to claim Nate Davis off of waivers, that team will be on the hook for $3.9 million of what was his fully guaranteed contract. So the Bears would not have to pay that $3.9 million. But like Sean said, ultimately for 13 starts, the Bears are going to end up paying Nate Davis somewhere around $20 million.
It's
not good. Not good, guys. But Nate Davis is gone. Hallelujah. Sean, let's get a round of applause.
Here. Definitely. Thank you. Yeah. Everybody is happy.
Nate Davis is gone. But another guy who is gone this week, guys, and we haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. We talked about it on Monday. We were hoping that Shane Waldron would be fired on Tuesday, and we were correct. Shane Waldron is no longer a part of the Chicago Bears. Looks like Thomas Brown is going to be the fill-in interim offensive coordinator, as you would call it. But either way, guys, in terms of this Packers game coming up and in terms of the Bears' outlook for the rest of the season, it's starting to look pretty bleak, Sean. Don't you agree?
I do. I don't see a lot of wins, but I'm going to give us a little hope. Can we get on the hope train here?
You're not talking about for Sunday, are you? Just talking about?
I am talking about for Sunday.
Oh,
I'm going to give us a little hope. So back in last year, at the end of the season, I think it was week 14, Thomas Brown was the offensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers. They scored their most points in a 33-30 loss to who? The Green Bay Packers. Bryce Young in that game was 23 of 36 for 312 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. DJ Shark had 6 catches for 98 yards and 2 touchdowns. The sad part of that is the next 2 weeks against the Jags and the Bucks, they were shut out in back-to-back weeks and had 200 yards of total offense.
Yeah, another glimmer of hope, if we're going to be digging through the sand to find them. a lot of people say that Bryce Young had the worst rookie season of all time, and he threw too many interceptions. There's no doubt about that. But let's not forget that Bryce Young also threw over 3,500 yards. I mean, maybe it was like over 3,200 yards last year. That's not terrible for a rookie quarterback in the NFL. I mean, that is not that's not terrible by any means necessary. That's that would have broken the Bears rookie quarterback record by a landslide. By a landslide, that would have destroyed the Bears rookie quarterback. So it's not like Thomas Brown coming in here is the worst thing ever happened. I mean, I don't think if the Bears had their choice, that would be their offensive coordinator of choice. But in terms of an interterm, somebody who has to kind of fill in the void until the end of the season, I think you could do worse for sure. I definitely think you could do worse. Sean, I'm going to go over some Packers numbers here with you real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
We got to dive into this game. So you guys, we'll always give you the statistics. We kind of let things fall where they may, and you guys kind of determine who you think is going to win this game by how much. But I'll tell you right now, the Packers are third in the NFL with 390 yards per game. They're third in the NFL with 155 rushing yards per game. They're seventh in the NFL with 236 passing yards per game. Ninth in the NFL at 26 points per game. Eighth in the NFL in time possession at 31.28 minutes per game. And sixth in the NFL with a turnover ratio of +6. Their defense is ranked 11th in the NFL, allowing 21.6 points per game. They're ranked 12th in the NFL, allowing 320 yards per game. 15th in the NFL, allowing 207 passing yards per game. 10th in the NFL, allowing only 113 rushing yards per game. And they have 10 interceptions on the season. They have 22 sacks as a defense and have allowed only 12 sacks this year on offense. So their offensive line is playing pretty well for the Green Bay Packers up there. But I mean, Sean, ultimately, this is certainly not a show to give testament to how good the Packers are, because I think the Packers are overrated. I honestly do. And I think Jordan Love's overrated. But I do think that the Packers are absolutely going to beat the Bears. There's no doubt about it. I think the Bears, they're going to actually beat them pretty handedly.
Well, I'll say this. I don't disagree with that sentiment at all. But I will say, if Malik Willis is the starting quarterback.
No, Sean, Jordan Love practiced in full today. Do you want me to go over the injury report for you for both teams right now?
I did see, and you said they let up 12 sacks all year. I did see that our main sack man, Mr. Montez Sweat, did not practice with an ankle injury.
So here's the injury report for the Bears. Some of it good, some of it not so good, guys. So as Sean mentioned, Montez Sweat did not practice today. Travarius Moore did not practice today. Another one that's really going to hurt the Bears, Tevin Jenkins did not practice today. And it's, they were saying he may have been come back into that game. It's looking more and more likely like he couldn't have, and he's probably going to be out on Sunday. Jaquan Brisker, that we talked about for the last 3 weeks, guys, is becoming incredibly concerning. He did not practice today. And like Sean, like you said earlier, he was ruled out of practice like 2 days ago. He was ruled out on like Monday. So that concussion really messed Jaquan Brisker up. And then lastly, Karan Amagaji also did not practice today. The good news is for the Bears when it comes to the tackle position, though, is both Darnell Wright and Braxton Jones practice in a limited fashion today. So that's good news. I mean, for a team that doesn't have a good offensive line to begin with, missing those two guys certainly will not help their cause. And then obviously, guys, Noah Sewell, limited practice. I guess it really doesn't matter because I don't think he plays anyway, even when he's healthy. And then Darrell Taylor, also, Sean, was a limited participant in practice today. But Sean, real quick, do you want to go over? Do you want to talk about Jaquan Brisker real quick? Because this is becoming. I mean, it's concerning at this point. If the Bears lose another game, Sean, if the Bears maybe two, yeah, shut them down, right? I mean, you're not making the playoffs. Even if you do, you're not going anywhere. I mean, at this point in the season, if you're really concerned about the safety and the health of Jaquan Brisker moving forward, you got to shut him down right now, right? Let him take half a season off, right?
I love you, Aunt Mass. I really do, man. 24-13. I love you, man. You know what? Unfortunately, Aunt Mass, I'm going to be a lot of doom and gloom as this show goes on as well here.
Yeah, Aunt Mass, my real problem is the fact that I do this podcast to analyze sports, give you my opinion, and the Bears have fooled me more than once, so it's not going to happen again, guys. I picked them to beat the Cardinals. Wasn't crazy surprised when they lost because the Cardinals do have a capable team. But, man, when you get your asses kicked by the New England Patriots, who are one of the worst teams in football, and we're projected to get the number one pick going into that game, and you can't even score 2 field goals, you're talking about a very, very bad football team, Matt Mass. And that's no disrespect to the Bears. You guys know I'm a huge Bears fan. I love them to death. But you got to think with your brain and not your heart. This football team is just not good. It's just not a good football team. Now, that being said, Aunt Mass, Sean, How many times in the NFL have we seen these coaching changes and it goes one of two ways? A, everything stays the same and they look just as bad as they normally do, which I project is going to happen to the Bears because it's the Bears and that's kind of how things go for us, right? It just seems to never get better. Or B, that coach does find the problems that were there existed before he got there, or before he became the interim offensive coordinator in this case, in terms of Thomas Brown. Starts getting the ball out of Caleb Williams' hands as quickly as possible, starts to play to the team's strengths or the team's weaknesses, so on and so forth, such as like that offensive line. So you got to get the ball out of Caleb Williams' hands and you got to run the ball. Now, if the Bears do that, if they run the ball and they get the ball out of his hands quickly and he does more dump off, screen passes, slant routes, stuff like that, I think this could be a game. I'll say that. I certainly think this could be a game. Do I think the Bears can win? No.
I was just going to touch on that and say, I do like Ant Mass any given Sunday. I will say that. What's going on? Not really, Hank Aaron. How we doing, Caleb? Well, there's a possibility of that. I did hear, Kyle, that if the Bears struggle for the first three quarters, that there's a really good chance that Tyson Bagent would be rolling out in the fourth quarter. Whether that's true or not, I don't know.
Well, Sean, I will say this. Did you see Cole Kmet's little interview today? I mean, obviously you guys, the players always have to say like the politically correct statement. They can't be detrimental to the team. But Cole Kmet claims that none of the stuff about veterans asking for Caleb Williams to be benched for Tyson Bagent, none of that stuff was true. It's all made up. And it was not. He said that the whole team supports Caleb Williams. They like Caleb Williams, and they want Caleb Williams to succeed. Now, obviously, guys, you don't know how much of this stuff is true. You don't know how much of this stuff isn't true. I will say, Sean, though, I don't like the fact that was first reported by Sylvie. I don't like that at all because
Waddle and Sylvie did, and also Ryan Heckman.
But Sylvie has been wrong more than a few times, man. Everything I listen to on ESPN 1000, 670 The Score, I take with a grain of salt. You guys, when stuff comes out from Brad Biggs or some of those Bears beat writers, those insiders who are in the locker room, those guys who are in the hallways at Howells Hall, that stuff's more believable because they could probably see it or feel it when they're in the building. But a guy who's just reporting on the Bears for ESPN 1000, he's not in the building. He's kind of just listening to what he hears. It's all hearsay. I don't know how much. I just take that stuff with a grain of salt, guys. I honestly can't see any. I can't picture a scenario which veterans were walking into the locker room and going, "Hey, Ryan, can you bench the number one pick in the draft and bring in Tyson Bagent, the Division II backup quarterback?" I mean, all these. Listen, you guys, I have nothing against Tyson Bagent. I think he's probably going to be. He's an adequate quarterback. I think he should be a backup in the NFL. But that's it. I think he should be a backup in the NFL. How many times, Sean? We've been Bears fans for a long time. How many times have people called for the backup quarterback?
You know what, Kyle? It goes with the old saying. Everybody loves the backup until he plays.
And how many times has that worked out for the Bears? Let's talk about the Shane Matthews of the world, the Caleb Haneys of the world, the Craig Crendels of the
you
world.
leave my Shane Matthews alone. I love Shane Matthews, band.
You love him, you may, but he was certainly no Super Bowl champion. Good. I can tell you that. Shane Matthews there's always those guys. I like Tyson Bagent a lot. I root for Tyson Bagent. I don't want to see him on the football field. I want to see our number one pick get better. That, as a Bears fan, if you are a true diehard Bears fan, you should want to see the Bears' number one overall pick, Caleb Williams, get better every week and start to evolve to the NFL speed and start to become a franchise quarterback. That's the best case scenario for the Chicago Bears. And I'm not sitting here saying that Caleb Williams is perfect and he deserves no blame for some of the Bears' faults. But let's face it, guys. It's tough to evaluate rookies in the NFL. First of all, you don't know how much of it is this poor coaching, how much of it is them not being able to catch up to NFL speed, or how much of it is just the team around them. For instance, the Bears' offensive line. They're not doing Caleb Williams any favor, right? I don't think the scheme was doing Caleb Williams any favors. These wide receivers are running too deeper routes. They're not coming back to Caleb. He's under pressure almost immediately on every single drop back. And then, Sean, the fact that he's dropping back 50 times a game at all is not doing him any favors. You guys know that rookie quarterbacks should be under center and they should be running the ball. And like Dustin pointed out 100 times, they ran the ball to running backs 17 times last week. You know what the Patriots and their rookie quarterback did? They handed it off to running backs 31 times last week. That's the recipe for winning football when you have a rookie quarterback.
I do believe Mr. Thomas, was it Thomas Brown? Is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to be okay. I was a little down on him. I was looking at his EPA per play, his success rate, his dropback rate. They were all in the bottom 3 of the league. But then I started trying to wrap my head around it and say, man, he didn't really have a lot of talent. He had a rookie quarterback. But the one thing that they did do was they did run the ball. I mean, so
yeah, Sean, that's how they beat the crap out of them. You brought up the stats of Bryce Young, but how they beat the crap out of the Packers was one. They ran the ball down their throat. Was actually what they did. They couldn't stop them from running the ball if you put a gun to their head. But I mean, that's another guy who's tough to evaluate. Sean, is Thomas Brown. I mean, you look at that Panthers team.
Did you see his interview today?
Thomas Brown, I did not get a chance, man. A very busy day today.
He was clear, concise. It was actually pretty refreshing. There wasn't no beating around the bush. He's going to be playing. He's going to be calling plays from the box, not from the sideline. He said that's where he prefers to go. I'm not going to pick the Bears to win this game. I can tell you that by the end of the show. But I will say, I think it might be, because of Thomas Brown, a little bit more of a competitive football game than what I thought last week.
Well, Sean, if they can stop Caleb Williams from getting sacked 9 times, it should be a more competitive football game than it was last week. I mean, if the Bears score 3 points again, guys, it's going to be very, very tough to continue talking about the Chicago Bears for the rest of the season. These shows aren't going to be very long. I can tell you that. It's going to be hey guys, welcome to the 4-Star Chicago Sports Podcast. We suck. We'll see you guys next week.
Have a good night. I will tell you this. To Amass's point, at any given Sunday, it's just, for me, 23 straight possessions without a touchdown, and you're going into your toughest part of your schedule, legit playoff teams, some with Super Bowl aspirations, and I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, how the hell down this stretch, as I look down the stretch of this schedule.
Yeah, Sean, you know what I'm thinking to myself? We just lost to the Patriots.
That's
we're about to play the Packers, Vikings, and Lions. We just lost to the Patriots. What is the Packers, Vikings, and Lions combined record?
It's right at the bottom.
40-7. I mean,
it's right at the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, if the Bears couldn't move the ball or stop the Patriots from scoring or move the ball on the Patriots, how could you possibly expect them to beat a team like Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings, or Detroit Lions? Now, like you guys, like the people are saying in the comments here, like we've talked about on this podcast before, any given Sunday, football is a weird sport. Dustin talked about it on Monday. He expects them to win more games the rest of the season. He doesn't think they're going to lose out. Football is just a strange sport. Weird things happen every Sunday. The ball bounces a weird way. But I'm telling you, for the Bears to beat the Packers on Sunday, the Bears would have to have the best game they've played in a long time, at least a month. And the Packers would have to have a very bad game where they're doing things that are very uncharacteristic of the Packers. I will say this. I hope that if Jordan Love does play, which he's supposed to because he practiced in full today, and I hope if that groin's bothering him a little bit, he does throw up a couple of toss-ups, because Jordan Love, that's becoming who he is, guys. He's a gunslinger. He's going to give the ball to the other team. He's going to do it. There's no doubt about it. But Sean, like you talked about when we got on here, I mean, Sean, can the Bears withstand the loss of Montez Sweat? I mean, that Cardinals game was rough.
If Sweat's not in there, dude, we're in big trouble. We're in big trouble, to say the least. I'm trying to wrap my head around this all day. I just don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say for the first time this year, because it's Green Bay, and I'm trying to find a silver lining just by looking at Thomas Brown last year and being able to beat Carolina. But I'm just going to throw this up really quick, but then we'll get that off of there. But I really don't know. I'm hopeful. I'm going to pray. I didn't really even go inside the stats, because I know the Bears are so ugly and the Packers are going to wind up being good. And, to you, not really a Hank Aaron, I just want to say Peyton Manning was 1-15, 26 touchdowns, 28 interceptions in his rookie year. So I wouldn't give up on Caleb. I think the talent is still there. I just think he needs to be coached right and find a niche here in the NFL. The team needs to help him out a little bit with quick passes, running the ball, taking some pressure off of his shoulders. And if you want to keep the Packers offense off the field, you're going to have to pound that ball right down their throat. It's the recipe to beat Green Bay, is to pound the damn ball. I can't be any more clear and concise than that. If you want any chance of beating the Packers, you're going to have to run this ball successfully, probably 30 times.
Yeah, and Sean, there's another thing I want to talk about. I'd like to talk about it when Vernon or Dustin are here, because we really didn't get an opportunity to talk about it on Monday. But One guy Bears fans need to start looking at and start wondering about, for me personally, is Tremaine Edmonds, man. I mean, this guy he's not an impact player. He has not been an impact player for the Chicago Bears. That was one of the Bears are paying him a lot more than he was 4 years, $70-something million. They're paying him a lot more than they're paying TJ Edwards. TJ Edwards is 10 times better than Tremaine Edmonds is. And not only that, Sean, but this is guess who the bottom 3 Pro Football Focus players were for the Chicago Bears on Sunday.
Well, I know one was Tremaine Edmonds, and he's been there consistently this year.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. This is like his 5th time being on the bottom 3 players on Pro Football Focus. So A, is Tremaine Edmonds just not the guy they thought he was when they signed him? Or B, is he also given up on this coaching staff? And then, Sean, the other 2 from Sunday was Montez Sweat, which I'm going to give Montez Sweat a break because I think the injury he's dealing with today is the injury he was dealing with before that game started. So he probably came into that game injured and probably never should have played, and they should have saved him for the Packers if they were smart. They should have just assumed they could beat the Patriots with nothing. And then lastly, Sean,
don't use smart Bears in the same sentence.
The lowest Pro Football Focus grade for the Chicago Bears on Sunday, and this one can be talked to. This can go a million different ways, this conversation, because this is just another knock on Ryan Poles. But guess at 36.7 Pro Football Focus score, Zach Pickens. 36.7 Pro Football Focus score, guys. I mean, that is absolutely, Sean, that's not just the lowest score the Bears have had this season. That's by a mile, by a country mile, Sean. 36.7. You got to purposely suck for PFF to be like, you suck.
Well, here, again, and I started this on Monday. We've been talking about it in text. And I just have to ask, man, when you guys want to grant Ryan Poles another year and everything's sunshine and flowers, and the Bears are living off of this fleece trade of Carolina and a couple of good draft picks. But in our text chain today, I put the bad versus the good. The bad for Ryan Poles is way worse than the good.
All right, but Sean,
hold on, Kyle. I'm going to give you one more because this really sticks in my craw because you know this. I never wanted James Daniels to leave this team. You signed Mr. Poles, this guy, Nate Davis, to a 3-year, $30 million contract and decided not to re-sign James Daniels, who signed a 3-year, $24 million deal with the Steelers, $6 million less. And Kyle, where was his PFF? What is he ranked?
92.8. He's number 1 in the NFL.
Oh, yeah. And this is my point. You guys want to keep gracing this guy. I was screaming.
Sean, I'm not gracing
James Daniels.
I'm not gracing Ryan Poles. So here's my thing about Ryan Poles. We can sit here and point out everything Ryan Poles has done wrong all day. I mean, PJ Walker signing, he was cut before the season even started. We gave him $4 million to play in training camp. Chase Claypool trade, absolutely terrible. I mean, one of the worst players the Bears have had in a long time. They wanted to cut him 2 days after they signed him. Nate Davis now is cut after only playing 13 games in the Bears uniform and getting paid $20 million to do so. They didn't re-sign James Daniels. They didn't re-sign Darnell Mooney. They didn't re-sign Roquan Smith. As a matter of fact, they traded him. We could talk about Ryan Poles' faults all day. Now we could also talk about all the good things Ryan Poles has done because, I mean, first and foremost, and I know, Sean, you're sick of hearing this because you always say I don't want to hear about the same, but that trade was probably the best trade in NFL history. It's good. It's up there for sure. It's top 5.
Kyle, let me ask you this: should that trade save his job
for
the rest of his life?
No, okay. It shouldn't. The players he has in on the draft are very good players. This is probably the most talented roster. He's the most talented roster the Bears have seen in a long time, excluding the offensive line. This is probably the most talented roster we've had since 2015. Well, I mean, the defensive line due in part to injuries, but yeah, I guess they weren't deep enough. I guess. I mean, you weren't going to have studs come in anyway. Once you lose Andrew Billings, you're not going to have another Andrew Billings come in, or he would just be starting. You can't have your backups can't be starters. They would all be starting somewhere else. But I will say this about Ryan Poles. I am not some huge fan of Ryan Poles. I don't hate the guy. I don't love the guy. I think my opinion and my viewpoint of Ryan Poles is exactly where it should be. Not, oh, God, awful, or, man, this guy's awesome. It's And that's pretty much what Ryan Poles has done since he's got here, right? Here's the only reason I don't like talking about Ryan Poles. We could talk about hypotheticals all day. We can go on for years about hypotheticals in the Chicago Bears. Ryan Poles is not getting fired. He's not. He's not. Anybody who wants to place a bet with me right now, Ryan Poles is not going anywhere. The Bears let their GMs finish their contracts. I will say, of all the GMs in the past that got to finish the fourth year of their contract, I think Ryan Poles is probably most deserving of all of them. Because even though Ryan Poles has made many mistakes, we've seen GMs here for 4 years, Sean, and you can't point to 4 talented players on the roster. You can't point to 4 talented players on the roster. The Bears have talent all over this roster, and they were all at. The only thing I have with Ryan Poles that I'm never, ever going to let go, the beef I have with Ryan Poles, is it seems like he was trying to make some point to make every single player on the roster one of his guys. Like, dude, if Roquan Smith and James Daniels are good players, then let Ryan Pace do the work for you. Just re-sign him. He already did the work for you. You don't have to scout him. You don't have to go. All you got to do is re-sign him. Now, I will say, I do think that it was unfair. When Ryan Poles got here, the salary cap was the whole salary situation was just the dead cap, the free agent money. It was just such a disaster that I can't necessarily blame him for shuffling out a bunch of money, right? Like James Daniels, you're re-signed. Roquan, you're re-signed. And you get a car, When you have when you're looking at you're looking at the salary at Ryan Poles and I mean, Sean, can you imagine looking at those numbers for the first day as Ryan Poles? Can you imagine opening up your computer and the McCaskies email you, all right, here's our salary cap numbers. Here's who the money is tied to. Here's our dead cap. Can you imagine opening up that computer for the first time? I mean, Ryan Poles opened that computer to be like, oh my God, this is a lot worse than I thought it was. I mean, you knew he had to trade Khalil Mack. He had to. There wasn't an option. Do you agree with that? You had to, Sean. You had to. You could not keep Khalil Mack here. You can't pay a guy $30 million a year for a team that's not going to be on a team that's not going anywhere.
Hey, really quick, we got a new guy in the chat. It's Matt, and he says rehire Matt Nagy, but I want to say thank you very much for joining the show.
Rehire Matt Nagy. That's about the picture you got. Nagy is not a good coach. I'll say this. Sooner or later, Sean, like you said, and I know Sean, you are, I think from listening to you, I'd say you're pretty much done with Ryan Poles, correct? I mean, you'd be ready to move on to a new GM.
I'm there, and I'll give you a big reason why when you're done.
Okay, so I will say this. If you wanted to do this the right way, you hire a GM hires a coach goes and gets their quarterback, you'd have to restart from scratch. I don't think Caleb Williams is going anywhere. I think from now, this point on, if Ryan Poles is here for another year, which I think he's going to be, I don't think Ryan Poles is he's no longer connected to Matteberflus. He's now connected to Caleb Williams. So
I disagree with that.
What I think, Matteberflus Sean is going to be fired, correct? And Ryan Poles is not. If the Bears do what they always do, that's exactly what's going to happen, correct? So once you fire Matt Eberflus and you decide to keep Ryan Poles is now attached to Caleb Williams, and then the new coach, obviously. So, but the new coach success will only be measured by what he pulls out of Caleb Williams, correct? You agree with that?
Sure.
Like once we hire a new coach, what he can get out of Caleb Williams, the way he can make Caleb Williams look on a football field, that's what's going to ultimately decide what happens to Ryan Poles in the future. Ultimately, that's going to be the hangman's noose for Ryan Poles. If he hires a new coach and the new coach gets here and Caleb Williams looks exactly like he has the last 3 weeks, Ryan Poles is going to get fired and they're going to start all over again. And you know what? At that point, Sean, I hate to say this because I like Caleb and I believe in Caleb. I'm a Caleb Williams believer.
Sure.
If they fire Ryan, if Ryan Poles hires a new coach this offseason, they look bad all year, and then they fire Ryan Poles and probably fire that new coach as well, they would probably trade Caleb Williams and then do it the right way, is my guess, because they'd probably just be fed up with it and fed up with hearing fans bitching them. Then they would probably hire a GM to hire a coach to draft a quarterback. That would be my guess. So if best case scenario for the Bears, and Dustin mentioned this on Monday, is for Ryan Poles to stay, rebuild the offensive line like he did for the Kansas City Chiefs in 2021. And I can go over that with you guys if you want. I talked about this on Monday. Ryan Poles, 2020, he replaced all 5 starting linemen on the Chiefs offensive line, and they've looked great for Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs ever since. If he could do that for the Bears this offseason, and then hire a competent coach, somebody like Ben Johnson, whoever you think it should be, whoever it ends up being, it doesn't matter.
Whoever's not ever lose.
And they come out and they're a competitive team and they win 9 or 10 games and they're competing for a playoff spot. I think kind of the table's kind of reset for Ryan Poles. I mean, first of all, some of these mistakes Ryan Poles has made, you have to cut it to the fact that he's a young GM. You knew he was going to make mistakes, right? When you hired a first-year GM, you knew mistakes were coming. You knew that was coming at some point. You knew that. And, people talk about organizations like, oh, well, the Steelers don't make mistakes, or this team doesn't make it. You guys, the Steelers drafted Kenny Pickett. The 49ers drafted Trey Lance. The Cowboys paid Dak Prescott before they paid Micah Parsons. I mean, teams with historical success make mistakes. Every team in the NFL makes mistakes. Now, I think if you're hiring a rookie GM, you should expect to have more mistakes because he's learning a new job. Sean, the first time you ever learned your job, the first few weeks you learned your job, did you fuck up?
Yeah. But it didn't take me 3 years to learn how to do my job.
Well, but you're talking about a different. Your job has 3 working parts. It's you, the insurance company, the customer. Ryan Poles' job has 500 working parts, and his biggest mistake, Ryan Poles for sure, was to put Matt Eberflus, keeping him, and putting him in charge of hiring the rest of the coaching staff. Because we now have, listen to this, guys. This one's going to blow your mind, and this is not going to help my point about Ryan Poles, but. We have now hired a coach.
My point.
We've hired a coach who hired Alan Williams, fired.
Yep.
Hired.
This is where I was going, Kyle.
Hired Luke Getsy. Not only was he fired, but he's been fired from his second team as well. Before the first coach fired in the season, and then besides the Jets coach, and then now hired Shane Waldron, fired. I mean, Matt Nagy's record, he's on a record pace for firing coaches that he's hired. These guys, the average time for offensive coordinator under Matt Eberflus is like 8 games. It's not good. It's not good. But I think it all can be fixed by just replacing Matt Eberflus. I really, honestly, Sean, in my heart, I believe that. I really do.
I do like that. I do. And I don't disagree with those points. My points are, as being a rookie GM, and any GM, you have to be able to recognize weakness. I don't care that the Bears went on a run. They went on a run at the end of the year. You knew Eberflus wasn't the coach. You knew Getsy wasn't the man. No coordinator wanted to come here because they knew Eberflus sucked and they were going to lose their job in 1 year. That's why nobody actually came here. I've been hearing it for the last
except for Shane Waldron.
Because Shane Waldron didn't care. And Shane Waldron was like, oh, maybe if I make this successful, they fire him and I become the head coach. Quite possibly. Could have been his thought. I don't know. But now we're looking. I'm looking at these free agents, and I can understand. And Brandon, your brother, and I talked about this earlier. If you guys want to wipe away 2022 and say, hey, that was a complete burn down, we had to burn the books, and
which is fair. Which is fair, right? Up. That's fair, right?
Yes, it is. It's completely fair.
I mean, his biggest free agent signing was like Equanimous St. Brown. You can't. That team was never going to win.
But here's my issue. Him and Ian Cunningham, both former linemen, have not evaluated one single lineman that's been good. That's come here.
I mean, I don't think the jury's out on Darnell Wright.
I think Darnell Wright's going to be good, but they drafted him. And again, when you draft players, blue chippers, they should be good. It's almost a no-brainer. I don't think GMs are genius when they take a player in the top 10. I don't think it's a genius move. It's laid out for you.
It depends. If they were projected to go 19 and you took him in the top 10, then yeah, then
sure. He went after. I like Darnell Wright. I think Darnell Wright's going to be fine. I think Darnell Wright's been hampered by injuries all year. I think he was hampered with injuries in training camp. I think that's just all slowed him down. I think he'll be fine. But you came into this season unprepared, no center, no line depth, and it's killing us right now. Number 2, for Ryan Poles, dude, you should have Bears Nation knew it 11 months ago that this guy shouldn't have been back. But now we're going into next season, new quarterback. We're going to reset the whole thing. If you're going to reset the whole thing, I think you reset it and you say bye-bye to Poles. I understand Poles has done good things, but you got to break it all down and do it right. Because as I said on Monday, the Chicago Bears do everything the exact opposite of what successful organizations do. It is time to cut ties. And you know what? Maybe Poles will be right. And I'm hoping you guys are right in this one and I'm dead wrong. Because my faith level is probably rock bottom.
Yeah, but we've seen it work both ways, Sean. We've seen GMs whose teams have struggled. They fired
let me
coaches,
ask
and
you
the
this.
GM got to keep his job, and then it ended up working out in the long run. We've seen that. That's
Let
happened in
me
the
ask you
NFL.
this. After Poles lobbied to keep Flus, and now Flus is going to be going on what, his third offensive coordinator in 2 years, 3 years. I mean, I just can't, dude. I'm starting to get angry. I'm starting to get angry. Like dude, just look at this. I mean, look at this. This guy's 14-29. There's locker room issues. He's on his third offensive staff. He's coaching a franchise 14 game. He has the longest losing streak of 14 games in franchise history. He's 0-18 on Sundays and away games. He's blown 5 games with a 95% chance of winning. Like what is the GM that you were like, oh, you won 7 games, dude. You should stay. Like, dude, nothing rang that this guy should have been back and been in charge of a professional franchise. And I'll be perfectly honest, we are the charter franchise in a major city. We are the NFL. There is no NFL without the Chicago Bears. And what McCaskey's all the way down is doing is complete malpractice. And I am like, my blood is boiling. I can't even handle the shit.
Oh, Sean, I agree. I mean, there's you have every right to be upset, and I can tell you right now that George Halas would be rolling over in his. I can tell you George Halas would be rolling over in his grave for sure, no doubt about it. Because, like you said, this is the charter franchise, and this is the team that created the NFL, and this is a team that back in the 50s and 60s, I know people don't care about it anymore, but they used to beat the shit out of everybody. I mean, they won a Super Bowl, they won a championship, what, 73-0 or something like that. Like, the Bears should be better, and fans deserve to have those expectations, 100%. There's no doubt about that. But I do like something that Brennan said on Monday. I would like to see, just as like his last ditch effort, one last chance for Ryan Poles, because he's going to get that 4th year of his contract. You know that for a fact. He's going to get the 4th year of his contract. Mm-hmm. I would like to see Ryan Poles hire a coach out of the whole coaching pool, out of everybody who's available. Not like, hey, Ryan, you could choose between Dan Quinn or Matteberflus, and then this year comes, hey, you got to draft a quarterback, and in the meantime, while you're doing that, go fire your coach and go find a new coach and build a whole new coaching staff. In the meantime, while you're doing that, make sure you're getting rid of the rest of this dead cap. In the meantime, while you're doing that, try to add free agents, rebuild the line, do all this stuff. I just think from where the Bears tore it down in 2021, 3 years wasn't realistic. There was too much to do. And you know what, you guys, one sport that's great about limiting your options in the offseason, so teams can't go from like being the worst team in the NFL to being like a powerhouse and buying championships, is the NFL. It's almost impossible to fix all the holes on an NFL roster in one offseason. I will say this, though, Sean. If the Bears go into next season and they have offensive line woes and they have coaching woes and they have their team is giving up or calling the coaches out, if any of that stuff happens, I would be fine firing Matt Eberflus in the middle of the season and hiring a new general manager. Never going to happen. I mean, that's not going to happen, but I mean, I would 100%. It didn't
happen after we just got drubbed by the hapless Patriots. It's never going to happen.
Like I said, I'll say this again for everybody out there. I am not like some huge Ryan Poles fan. I'm not like backing Ryan Poles and saying he did nothing wrong. This is not his fault. This is all Matt Eberflus' fault because he's responsible. Ultimately, he is responsible for Matt Eberflus. That ultimately was his decision to keep him here. He needs to suffer the consequences. I just think if you look at Bears teams in past history, and if you look at the GMs in the NFL in total, because it's not a very successful position. A lot of GMs get fired in the NFL yearly.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like we're the Browns, where we put ourselves in a position where we can't succeed for the next 10 years. I think that this team could be fixed in one offseason from where Ryan Poles has brought them now, from what Ryan Poles has brought this Bears team to now. If you look at the talent on the roster, I believe this can be fixed in one offseason. I think he can. I'm not saying they're going to be Super Bowl contenders next year, but I think they could be a damn good football team next year, and only with one offseason.
I have repeatedly said I don't believe talent is the issue. I don't believe we have enough depth, but I don't believe the main talent is the issue on this roster. I've never thought that. At some positions, yes, defensive line and offensive line, but they're stars on this team, and they should be better.
And you know what? You hear a lot of people say, and it's true, and it is concerning that Ryan Poles has never drafted a Pro Bowler, right? And that's true.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't deny that. But at the same time, let's see, you guys. His first, was it 2 years he had no first round pick?
Yeah.
So
Was
he had no.
Was it his first ever NFL pick? Was it Velus Jones?
No, it was Kyler Gordon.
Kyler Gordon. Okay.
And then Jaquan Brisker, then Velus Jones.
Then Velus Jones. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Okay.
But I mean, I don't necessarily think that Ryan Poles has ever been given the opportunity to draft a guaranteed Pro Bowler. I don't think he's ever been given the opportunity to draft a guaranteed Pro Bowler because of how the Bears didn't have first round pick. And then when he finally did get a first round pick and Darnell Wright, well, first of all, Sean, right tackles aren't sexy. It's not a sexy pick. Second of all,
I'm not mad about Darnell Wright.
Yeah. Then second of all, you can't say, well, Darnell Wright wasn't a Pro Bowler last year. He was also a rookie. He's learning a new position. He's trying to catch up to NFL speed. And it's very rare that rookie tackles or rookie guards make it to the Pro Bowl. I mean, you have to be like a generational talent for those two guys to come out and do that. Everybody knew Darnell Wright was 20 years old. You knew that they were drafting him more based off of his physical stature than they were like how amazing he's been in college for the last 5 years. He played, 1 year? I mean, I think Torrey Taylor is going to be a Pro Bowler this year, so I think Ryan Poles is going to break that chain of no Pro Bowlers, not drafting Pro Bowlers. I don't see how. Sean, can you see a scenario in which Torrey Taylor is not a Pro Bowler? I mean, the guy's averaging like 85 yards a punt.
He actually had a couple stickers too.
He did, and he's a rookie. He's gonna have up and downs. But still, the guy still has.
When he kicked that 13-yarder the other day, I'm like, you gotta be shitting me. Now the kicker sucks. I'm like, come on, dude.
Well, and I think he still has the most kicks inside the 10-yard punts inside the 10-yard line, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and I think it's by a long shot. I don't think he can be caught.
I'm not upset about Torrey Taylor. I'm upset that I feel like that was more of a luxury than using the pick on something that we needed for depth on this roster.
The pick was the pick and where it was strange. Like to draft Torrey Taylor, a punter in the 4th round. I think all Bears fans across the board, I think all of us were texting each other like, what the what is this? Am I reading this wrong? Does that say P in front of his name? Punter? But then, the more you watch him, the more you watch this film in Iowa, the more you understand why Ryan Poles was like, this guy's not going to be here in the 5th round. He's just not. He's not going to be here in the 5th round. If I'm going to get him, I'm going to have to do it now. He probably knew it was a reach, but he wanted his guy. That was his guy. He went and got him. Testament to Ryan Poles. I've told you guys this before. I told you this on Monday. I am more upset because you could point to reasons why matteberflus could be kept. You said it yourself, Sean. I'm not saying that they're good reasons, but you said they finished the season strong last year. The players were still playing. All right, well, if you're an idiot, you could be like, well, we could keep him because the players are still playing for him and they finished the season strong. What I'm more upset with Ryan Poles for is the fact that he didn't do enough to the offensive line, and he knew it was going to be a problem. He knew the offensive line was going to be a problem. We all knew it. Bears fans knew it. The coaches probably knew it. I'm sure Ryan Poles knew it. The ownership knew it. But they were like, well, we can kind of duct tape it together, keep Caleb Williams standing, and then we'll get better next year. But to me, if you're going to draft a rookie quarterback, the offensive line is probably always the most important position on the field, even when it's not a rookie quarterback. So how that position got pushed to the back burner, that's the thing for me in particular that really frustrates me about Ryan Poles. That drives me absolutely up the wall, especially from a guy who was drafted by the Bears as an offensive lineman. Like, dude, you know how important the position is. You played it. You played the position.
One thing too, to switch gears just a little bit into this new or this mess that was Shane Waldron. I don't know if you heard Keenan Allen or DJ Moore, but they were very vocal today.
He got destroyed.
Yeah, he got destroyed. And Caleb Williams said something along the lines that he didn't really talk to Thomas Brown that much this year so far during his press conference. And I'm starting to think, I'm like, wait a minute. You didn't talk to your passing game coordinator? How does that make any sense at all? Like, you're not talking to the passing game coordinator, dude, all year? We're in week 10. What the fuck? Like, dude, it is such a mess. It is such a mess. And 11 months ago, this could have been saved. And that's just, I can't get over that, man. I really can't get over that. It's just
Yeah,
killing me, man.
it's crazy. I mean, Sean, this is a systemic. This is an organizational failure. I
Yes.
mean, they're doing stuff that right now that people haven't done. They've never been done in the NFL, and the Bears are trying it. It's not working. Like, hey guys, don't be so cute. Real quick, Sean, I want to bring up or talk about independent Aquaman's
Yeah, I
comment
like
here. He
this.
says your line is one of the best for run protection, but only average for pass protection. So until fixing that, you need a QB who when not running for yards will throw it away quickly, just trying to help. Well, I will say this again, and I appreciate the comment, Independent Aquaman. We appreciate you joining the show again. That's awesome. Thanks for coming back. Please hit the like, subscribe button, share. But I will say this, Independent Aquaman. This is the second time somebody said your offensive line is good at run protection. Which offensive line are you talking about? Because in the last 2 years, the last 2 years, the Bears have played with like 38 different offensive combinations in the offensive line. If you're talking about the offensive line from the Patriots game on Sunday, Aquaman, you are sadly mistaken. That offensive line is not good at anything. If your starting tackles are Matt Pryor and Larry Borum, you're not good at anything. And once again, that's exactly what we're talking about, Aquaman. This Ryan Poles did this to himself. He should have addressed the tackle position. He should address the whole offensive line, and then even brought up better backups because the Bears have dealt with injuries to the offensive line for the last 20 years. The last time the Bears 5 starting offensive linemen finished the season was 2009. So this is a part of the game. This is coming. It's not if, it's when. So once again, Ryan, the one thing I will never be able to forgive Ryan Poles for, the reason that we're going to be a year behind in Caleb Williams' development, again, another year behind for the Chicago Bears, was because he didn't address the offensive line. I think even Matteberflus would look better if the Bears would address the offensive line. And I don't like Matteberflus. And I think even he would look better if the offensive line could actually protect their quarterback. Do you agree with that, Sean?
I do. And
not to say that Matteberflus is a good coach, but I think it would be a lot easier to coach the offense if you had an offensive line that could keep your quarterback standing up straight for more than 2 plays in a row.
I agree with that 100%. And I mean, that's what I'm waiting for. It's just, he goes, I was referring to overall games to now, not a singular game, and I'm including the backups. Because the Lions had O-line problems the past 3 years, and even Lions fans refusing to admit that, thinking only of the starters.
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem, is when the Bears line is relatively healthy, yes, they can. And, you also have to take
relatively average.
Yeah, and you have to take into consideration, Independent Aquaman. The Bears might be good at run blocking because they're trying to limit their failures or their deficiencies. So like if they say, hey, our offensive line is terrible at pass blocking, terrible, let's run plays where it makes them really easy to open up run lanes for them. Let's simplify it for the offensive line. But you're making them better at run blocking, but you're still losing them. You're losing more in the pass protection. And ultimately, you guys, the most important part of this team is Caleb Williams. Whether people like him, I don't care if you like him or not. I don't care if you think he should be the quarterback for the Bears or not. He is the quarterback for the Bears, and he was the number 1 overall pick. So he's not going anywhere. He is not going anywhere, guys. So if you really want to see what you got in this guy, and you really want him to succeed in the NFL, or at least see if he can reach what his ceiling is it generational? Is it great? Is it good? Is it average? You have to give him a good play caller and a good offensive line. Do we all agree on that?
Yes.
You have 100%. To give him a good player. And people are like, well, DJ Moore and Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze, they're part of the problem too. I don't think so. I think DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and Keenan Allen are being held back by Shane Waldron. I think they wanted changes. They wanted changes to be made, and they weren't being made. I mean, you saw the video of Shane Waldron going to sit down next to Caleb Williams on the sideline. There was absolutely no respect between the two at all. Caleb Williams basically had this look on his face like, dude, get the fuck away from me. I'm done with you. You just got me hit 9 times. Now I got to come over here and listen to your mouth. No, thanks, man. Like the fact that I'm still standing and still alive, I'll take it, but you need to get away from me. That's Sean. I don't know about you, but that's the vibe I was getting when watching that.
And really quick, Dan Wiederer asked Keenan Allen why things didn't work out with Shane Waldron here at Hallis Hall. He goes, I would say just probably he was a nice guy. I think during OTAs and training camp, we kind of fell into the trap of letting things go, not holding people accountable. And obviously those things led to this slippery slope. And we also did hear DJ Moore a couple of weeks ago, which he got his wrist slapped, saying, hey, in practice, when we make mistakes, we don't go back and fix them. We just continue to move on. What is practice for? To fix your freaking mistakes, dude. Like,
Yeah.
this is what I mean. It is such a failure. You're hearing this from your players, and it's time for Bears to break tradition and let this guy go. Who takes the reins? Maybe Kerry Joseph. Maybe you give it to Eric Washington. I don't really care who the head coach is, as long as it's not Eberflus.
Well, it doesn't
These
matter
things
because they're not going to be the head coach
won't
next
happen.
year. Even if you fire Matt Eberflus, at least you're making a statement to your team that you're like, I want things to change. And it doesn't matter who the interim coach is because they're not going to be the coach next year. The Bears aren't going to retain whoever coach. I don't care if they win 80% of the rest of their games. They're going to go out and find the best coach they could possibly find. Now, Sean, I wish you would have heard the Kurt Warner interview on 670 The Score yesterday because it was
Let's see if that comes through.
Yeah, there you go. Shane Waldron looks like he's having a fun old day at the water park, and Caleb Williams looks like he wants to blow his head off. But this Kurt Warner interview on 670 The Score yesterday was amazing because all they asked Kurt Warner questions about was Caleb Williams, which is that's what we all want to hear about, right? Like, where do you think Caleb Williams is at? Where do you think how do you think this is going to turn out? How do you think this is going to pan out? Well, Sean, one of the first things Kurt Warner said, he said, "Listen, nice guy coaches are always fun in the beginning. They're good in the beginning. Players like them, players respect them." He's like, the more and more they let stuff slide, like they see a mistake made somewhere, but they're too timid to like bring it up. Like, hey, I stopped the play. DJ, pull your head out of your ass and don't do that shit again. All right, run it again. If coaches aren't willing to do that and they're like, it was a mistake, but it was a small mistake, I'll let it slide. The more and more that stuff piles up on each other, the more and more respect those players lose for their coach. The players would rather be yelled at than pampered. They really would. I honestly believe as grown men, the players would rather have a nature coach than a nurture coach. And there's no doubt in my mind, guys. I don't know what was going on with Shane Waldron and the team in the locker room, but I can tell you for a fact, just by watching his mannerisms, just by listening to interviews about the guy, Shane Waldron was a nurture coach. He was not a nature coach. Shane Waldron was that's all you keep hearing from everybody. Jackson Smith and Jigba said it in the offseason. He's a nice guy. He's a really nice guy. He's a nice guy. Well, you guys, you work in a business where nice guys don't make it very far. You're talking about last. Yes, in the NFL, 100% nice guys finish well. Sean, if you're talking about therapists, something like along those lines, nice guys probably don't finish last. But when you're talking about the NFL, when you have 53 grown men in a locker room, they all have different backgrounds. Some of them very violent backgrounds. Some of them are very tough guys. They were raised in very tough situations. We've heard about it time and time again. A lot of these guys were raised in very, very tough situations. These guys are no shit given kind of guys, man. I mean, these guys have very, very specific personalities. To manage all 53 men in the room, you have to be a very good leader of men. And the Bears don't have one of those guys in the building. I don't think they do.
They do not.
I would like to see Kevin Warren walk into the locker room and have a conversation with these guys. I want to see. I keep hearing that Kevin Warren's no bullshit type of guy. Kevin Warren's this hard ass, doesn't accept failure, doesn't take shit. Where is that? All right. Well, Kevin, let's wake up. Where are you at, man? Bears fans are sick of this shit. You should be too.
To the interview process, and this is kind of, again, this goes back because Poles was in on it. Kevin Warren was in on it. Matt Eberflus was in on it. Clay Harbor, I don't know if you know who Clay Harbor is.
Yeah, of course.
He did a nice little piece today. He goes, Matt Eberflus could have hired somebody else besides Shane Waldron. Cliff Kingsbury currently 4th in yards, 3rd in points. Liam Cohen 8th in yards, 5th in points. Zach Robinson 5th in yards, 13th in points. Clint Kubiak 16th in yards, 16th in points. And Greg Roman has a 6-3 win-loss record. These are all the guys you had in the building for an interview. And Cliff Kingsbury was just here for what? Eye candy, so they can get information on Caleb Williams. It wasn't even a serious interview. And this is what I'm saying. Like, we're going to have the same guys in this interview process again. I just don't have the confidence that they're going to get it right.
Well, no, I think this year Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren will be interviewing head coaches, and I think Kevin Warren will. Like Brennan said earlier. Brennan said on Monday. Do you guys think that it'll just be Ryan Poles is given the keys to the car and I hire whoever you want? I think Kevin Warren's going to be heavily involved in this coaching search. I really do. I really think he's going to be heavily involved in this coaching search. And if Kevin Warren is the guy that everybody says he is, there's no bullshit, no excuses. If you don't do your job, you're fired. If he really is that guy, then I want him in the room for the coaching interviews. I want him in the room. I want him to hire somebody that he sees maybe somebody, a little bit of himself in somebody. Like, this guy is going to hold people accountable. No excuses, no mistakes. Do your job or leave. That's what I want. I want that coach.
I do agree right here with Deberski, man. He was
What's up, Harris?
and that's why I think he wasn't there. And I want to touch on this Kyle Harris point here. The last 30 years, countless coaches and players. Why can't the Bears develop an offensive player? I'm going to go back 15 years here, starting in 09. Since Ron Turner was fired, our longest tenured head coach or offensive coordinator in the last 15 years. You had Martz for 2010 and 11, Tyson 12, Tressman 13-14, Gason 15, Logan 16-17, Nagy 18-20, Laser in 20, Nagy back in 21. Then you got Laser again in 21. That was such a monkey show. Then you got Getsy back in 22-23. And now you have Shane Waldron and Thomas Brown. 12 offensive coordinators in 15 freaking years, dude. That is insane.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, and I do agree with Kyle's point with the coaches. The players, not so much. The Bears have developed very good players.
The Bears have had, yes.
Alshon Jeffrey was a great player. Matt Forte was a great player. Cole Kmet's a great player in the NFL. He would be a great player for any team. Any team in the NFL would love to have Cole Kmet on their team. I think Darnell Wright's a good player. I mean, Tevin Jenkins is a very good player. And the Bears are the ones who made Tevin Jenkins a good player because he came in as a terrible tackle and they made him a good guard. So, I mean, if it wasn't for the Bears, Tevin Jenkins' NFL career would have been over if they didn't change his position. I mean, the Bears have developed players in the past. The problem with the Bears is, you guys have talked about this time and time again. You can't make these players learn a playbook. Like, here, you see this playbook right here, this 500-page playbook? Learn that, and then come into the season prepared to play. And then they do it, and they're by week 10, they're like, hey, I think I'm starting to get the hang of this offense, and I'm starting to get the hang of this playbook. And then you're like, nope, offensive coordinator's fired. Now learn this playbook instead. Right. In the middle of the season. It just doesn't work, guys. It doesn't work. They're human beings. They're not Supermen.
In the last 13 years, and this is going to go back to 2011 when McCaskey took over, I think I'm going to look it up really quick, but I think we only have 2 winning seasons since this bum has been the GM of the Bears, and he won't remove himself. And this is my problem. It's just going to keep happening because of this clown right here. He keeps making the same mistakes. And this is not a guy who wants to develop a football team because this is more of a cash cow for the McCaskies. They can give 2 shits what happens.
Well, see, Sean, that's why I want Ryan Poles to stay for 1 more year. So the Bears had Ted Phillips here. You guys all remember Ted, president of football operations. The guy was a bean counter.
Really quick. We have 2 playoff appearances and also 0 playoff wins during this McCaskey tenure. But go ahead.
So we've talked about how the Bears. First of all, they did everything backwards. Now, here's what I want to see Ryan Poles for 1 year. Sean, I honestly truly believe in the last 2 years, at least 2 years, because like we talked about, I am not holding anything against Ryan Poles for year 1 when he got to the Bears because it was a mess. So he tore it down. And I think he did exactly what he should have. And I couldn't have been happier when he was trade Mac to get rid of this guy, sign nobody.
If you're still listening, Brando, I'll give you, I said earlier, 3 years. I'll give you the 2.
Yeah. So George McCaskey said before he hired Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren, he said, I am a football fan. I don't know the game like most people do. You remember that, Sean? He came out and said that in an interview. Yeah. He came out and said that. I don't know football like most people. I am a football fan that I'm honored to own this franchise, to be part of this franchise. He said when he hires Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren, he's going to give them full autonomy. Like they can do whatever they want. He's going to have nothing to say about the team anymore. It's totally up. He put the 2 guys in place that he trusts and he let them hire. But there was an asterisk because George McCaskey also hired Bill Polian to find a coach. So then they had to deal with that whole situation. He picked Matteberflus and then that didn't work out. Now then he stuck to Matteberflus. That's not working out. I want to see, we still have not seen Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles get to make every decision from the top down without any input from McCaskey or Bill Polian or anybody else. Like it's you guys this year, go find your coach, go build your offensive line. Here's the money, do whatever you want. We expect this team to compete next year. If this year they do that, they go build an offensive line, add a couple more players to the defensive line and go get a new coach and it works out, then they made the right decisions. If it doesn't, then I'd say either you have to burn it down and start again. There's no doubt about that. But B, I think Kevin Warren should be fired, and I think the McCaskey should give the team to somebody else. We know that's not going to happen, but that's the only way they'll ever survive this, Sean. If they screw up Caleb Williams, they will never be successful until the McCaskies get rid of this team.
And you
That's a
want to
fact.
know, you want to know, and I said this on Monday, they felt like they drafted a foolproof quarterback that can't get it wrong, and they can continue to do the crap that they've been doing because he won't fail. He'll just be great. And unfortunately, they don't understand how the NFL works because that's not how it works. Even the greatest quarterbacks struggle in their rookie years. Now it's changed a little bit because you're looking at Bo Nix doing a good job, Jaden Daniels doing a good job,
Oh,
CJ Stroud
Sean, and
last year
define
doing a
good
good job.
job. I mean, they're surviving. Their team is average. I mean, define good job. I mean, it's not like Patrick Mahomes in his first full year playing. Those guys are 1 in a million. You're not. Those guys don't. Patrick Mahomes comes around once every 30 years, guys. I think Caleb Williams, his success is a product. His success and failures are a product of what is put around him. Matt Eberflus, Shane Waldron, and the worst offensive line in football. That's where Caleb Williams. That's where you expect when you look at Matt Eberflus, Shane Waldron, and the worst offensive line in football. Then you say, "I wonder how Caleb Williams is doing." Well, how do you think he's doing? How do you think he's doing? You give him the worst coach in football and the worst offensive line in football. How do you think he's doing? You think he's going to be a Pro Bowler and throw for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns? Of course not. He's a product of the team around him. And you know what, Sean? I think there's also a very, very valid point to say that I don't think this is a rumor anymore. I think the Chicago Bears even the good players that should be helping Caleb Williams have given up. The little help he had left has given up.
Here, I want to touch on this Bearski point here. I've never liked the McCaskies, and I've been asking him to sell for 20 plus years. So I did not praise them when they draft Caleb Williams.
No, nobody's
never praised.
I never praised
those guys.
McCaskies for drafting
I think they
Caleb Williams.
suck as owners.
Yeah, he came out and said it. He said, "I'm not a football guy. I'm a fan." If you're a fan, you shouldn't be making football decisions.
You know what else sucked? Is they came out and Eberflus in his press conference said today he meets every Monday with George McCaskey. I thought George McCaskey said he was doing nothing with this football team. This guy should be nowhere near talking to any coaches about shit ever.
Yeah, maybe like, hey, how you doing today, Matt? Good, yourself? Good. All right, take it easy. Right. Like that. I'm fine with that. Like, they should still have some camaraderie in the building. Like he does work for him. You do have to talk to your boss occasionally, but no, he certainly shouldn't be giving Matt Eberflus like any football advice. Like, hey, what do you think about playing Roshan a little bit more? Like that. Those conversations should not be happening between George McCaskey and anybody. And
Persky, to that point, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think they drafted Caleb Williams thinking that they have Peyton Manning. It'll be a rough year, but at the end of the day, he's going to save the franchise. It's what we all hope, that he will save the franchise. But this is what
the jury's not out. The jury's not out.
I'm not giving up on. I'm not giving up on him. I'm not
Caleb Williams, no. Caleb Williams, you just watched the Carolina Panthers and Jacksonville Jaguars game. You could say whatever you want, Sean. Well, those are the Carolina Panthers and Jacksonville Jaguars. You take away the Tampa Bay game from Mitch Trubisky. Name another quarterback who's done that for the Bears. Name a quarterback who's done it in back-to-back games.
Hold on to that again. Sorry, I was reading Bearski's comment. What was that?
Name a quarterback that's done what Caleb Williams did against Carolina and Jacksonville and back-to-back games. And we've had quarterbacks play two shitty teams back-to-back in the past. Did they do what Caleb Williams did? Did they throw 10 touchdowns and throw for 800 yards? No.
I'm looking at the calendar. I think his first 6 weeks were really, really good.
Yeah.
I really did.
He's a good quarterback stuck in a terrible, terrible franchise. I think that's what it is.
Dennis Moody, but agreed at Dennis Moody. I missed what Dennis said up here. Here it is. The first 3 picks in the top 40 franchise left tackle and 2 centers. Use one as a guard.
Yeah, there's a tackle guard, or there's a Lions guard that might very well be on the Bears' radar. So,
who's that? I thought they locked up their whole line.
Zietler. No, he's
Zietler. Yeah, Zietler. Yeah, but I thought we read that he may be a free agent, but he's not.
Yeah, well, yeah, we can read that the Lions are saying, "Hey, he ain't going anywhere." But if another team comes up to him and says, "Hey, instead of $40 million, do you want $80 million?" The Lions can't do a goddamn thing about it, Sean.
And Bearski, I agree with that 110%. I do. I really, really do. I think that he did struggle, but he came back. And everyone knew, but you could see it. Like, we can see it in Caleb. So that's why I'm not too overly concerned. I think you just got to get the right people around him, people that are competent, people that understand how to help rookie quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, learn how to work through deficiencies, hide them, and play around them. Because I'll tell you, the Cincinnati Bengals did it with Joe Burrow. And look, man, I understand he had T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, but he still got sacked the most in the league and went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and he still looks like a very good quarterback. You want to go over his numbers against the Ravens this season? The guy's thrown like 10 touchdowns, 1,000 yards. I mean, listen, Caleb is what the Bears are doing for Caleb right now. Is it a concern? Yes, of course. They're definitely tainting his development. I think personally, for me personally, I think Caleb Williams is too smart to let 1 year ruin his entire career. I think Caleb Williams is kind of thinking the same thing Bears fans are right now. Like, hey, I just got to make it through the season. If I could just make it through the season, I get a new coach, a better offensive line. I think things will be much better next year. And I hope he holds on to that mentality, because it sucks to go. I'm sure it sucks to go out there every week and get hit 9 times, guys. I'm sure it's not fun. I'm sure eventually getting hit by a big grown man eventually gets pretty old. But I don't think Caleb's a baby. I think he'll deal with it.
When you say this, I'm worried about Caleb. You're not worried about his talent. You're just worried about the hits he's taking. Is that what I'm understanding correctly? You're just worried.
Yeah, which you should be. Which you should be.
I think we all should be.
You're going to get him killed. I wouldn't be surprised if Tyson Bagent comes in the game on Sunday, not because they bench Caleb Williams, but because Caleb Williams is sitting in the blue tent. That wouldn't surprise me in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, let's see. Rodgers won a Super Bowl, being the most sacked with McCarthy as his head coach and Joe Philbin.
Yeah, Rodgers was also Spearsky, and I agree with you, and that's a really good point. But Rodgers was also what, 5 years into his career after sitting for 3 years prior to that? I mean, Rodgers had like 8 years experience when they won the Super Bowl. You're talking about a rookie quarterback who's running for his life. It's not even a close comparison.
I agree, Aquaman. We don't want Caleb to become Tua, man.
No. At this point, we've talked about this on the 4 Stars podcast for 3 weeks now. Caleb Williams developing bad habits and Caleb Williams' safety and health should be the Bears' major concerns right now. We've talked about this. If you're going to continue to put that offensive line out there that they've been putting out there, you need to get the ball out of his hands immediately. Immediately. Snap, throw, snap, throw, snap, throw, run. If the Bears can do that for the rest of the season, I think they can keep Caleb standing upright, and I think he'll start to learn a little bit more about the NFL game. Are the Bears going to win a bunch of games? Is Caleb going to throw 5,000 yards and 50? No, absolutely not. But I do think you can still continue this season and continue the development of Caleb Williams. I think it's a possibility. I think the Bears are capable. This team is capable of doing that with the talent they have here. Now, I will say this. They need to improve. The health of Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright plays a huge role in that, because you can't go out there with Larry Borum and Matt Pryor again, Sean. That can't happen. No. It can't happen, Sean. It can't happen. It's not.
I do think though, we might have their services this weekend. I don't know if they're 100% healthy.
Yeah, to have limited practices and the first official practice of the week is huge. That's absolutely huge.
I'll be honest. I'm worried about Roshan Gary. I am really worried about that guy. I'm really worried about him.
Well, I'll tell you this, man. After this DNP for Tevin Jenkins, I'm done with Tevin Jenkins. I'm done. I've moved on from Tevin. I think Tevin Jenkins is an excellent guard when he's healthy, but the bottom line is he's never going to be healthy. This is just who he is. This is who Tevin Jenkins. We've seen it with guys like Mike Brown in the past. All the talent in the world, but this is just who they are. This is just who he is. He's never, and I'm not saying I don't like Tevin Jenkins and I don't wish him success and prosperous life. He just shouldn't be on the Bears next year. If your plan going into next season is bring up Tevin Jenkins at left guard, you're an idiot, because you're not going to have Tevin Jenkins at left guard.
So we got Bearsky here. He says, that's why we need a superstar. I hear you. We're going to need a guy that is amazing to overcome all these issues we throw at him. And then we have independent Aquaman says, now I disagree with Bearsky Films. If we have a superstar that gets concussed and they basically can't play properly anymore, then it's a waste of time.
Independent Aquaman makes a very great point. You want to know why it's a great point? Sean, do you remember a guy by the name of Andrew Luck?
I do.
That guy got his brains bashed in so often that he was like, you know what? I know I'm the best in the NFL, or at least top 3, but I can't do this shit anymore. I'm done. I'm out. Yeah. I'm out.
Hey, Kyle, can I tell you, Kyle Harris, can I tell you, Gary gets a ton of pressures, but not a lot of sacks. We just gave up 9 sacks to the Patriots. I have a feeling he might get a couple this weekend.
The Patriots had
I'm just
16.
throwing it out
They
there,
had
man.
16 sacks before that game. They now have 25. They just got right up. They were like 30 or like 29th in sacks this season. And then they played the Bears. They moved up to like 12th in sacks this season. I mean, believe me,
Bearsky,
Kyle, the Packers are going to get plenty of pressure on Caleb Williams. I promise.
Bearsky,
No doubt about
I
it.
agree with you that Burrow is an outlier in the situation because we watched
Yeah,
a player
that's
like
also
David
true.
Carr, who
That's
we
also
thought was
true.
a very good quarterback.
People always
but got
point
a
to Joe
brain
Burrow.
scandal.
Yeah, people always point to Joe Burrow. There's plenty of more people who've got their brains bashed in and their career was ruined because of it.
Yeah, Andrew Luck, David Carr. I mean, David Carr is a prime example. That guy got sacked 76 times, I think, one year.
Yeah, and I think he had the potential to be a good quarterback in the NFL. I think that ruined his career. And like I said, Andrew Luck could have been great for 15 years. Could have been great for 15 years, and they didn't protect him, and that ended his career. And once the concussions started to go down into the neck, once your neck starts getting messed with, man, that's in sports. You should hang it up because that can become you could be paralyzed.
Kyle, I got something for you. Kyle Harris, I got something for you. Oops. Sorry, I didn't. That was the wrong button. Maybe it was this one. Oh no, never mind. Sorry.
Well, Kyle Harris. I don't agree with the second part, the go pack go part, but I do believe that the Bears are going down. I believe that 100%.
I do believe that as well.
I mean, Kyle, it shouldn't be much bragging rights, and it shouldn't be saying. It's not saying much because we just lost to the Patriots, who are the worst team in the NFL. But a win's a win, I guess. I mean, if you could beat the Bears, but I still think we could talk about the Packers real quick if you want, Sean. First of all,
we got requests to show this again. We're gonna throw back up there. This one, Independent Aquaman, or are we looking at this one?
First of all, no matter where you stand on Jordan Love, the guy should never have been the highest paid player in the NFL. I mean, it's clear and obvious that Jordan Love is not one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL. So how the hell did he get paid as number 1? Secondly, the Packers as a team are inconsistent. This is the Packers have been doing things, Sean, correct me if I'm wrong. The Packers have been doing things that are very un-Packer-like for the last few years.
This year.
Like since this new regime took over, since they got rid of Mike McCarthy and they brought him out before. I mean, you signed a guy in Jordan Love to the biggest contract in NFL history for a quarterback after 7 good games. I mean, really, Kyle, even as a Packers fan, go look at the season prior. He really had 7 really good games. Besides that, he was awful. And then you throw in the fact that the thing that ended their season in the playoffs was a pick that no quarterback should ever throw, ever, even as a rookie, throwing across the field late. Brutal. I mean, I just don't. And then now he comes in and he's continued this interception streak where he's just throwing them up for grabs on some weekly basis. I thought at some point in the back of my head, I'm like, man, I got to stop talking about Jordan Love because watch, he's going to go 3 weeks without throwing an interception. He's going to go a month without throwing an interception. That's not going to happen, Kyle. He's not that guy. That's just not who he is.
Against the Bears.
Yeah, Jordan Love throws picks. He's going to be that guy for the rest of his career. He is. He's a better Jameis Winston. That's what he is. He'll keep you in the game, and then has the potential to just ruin it.
You know what he is, Kyle? You're going to love this Kyle Harris. He's a quarterback that's good enough to continue to break your heart.
Kyle's heard you say that time and time again. He knows where you stand.
He got me back the other day with Caleb.
I'm not saying that Jordan Love's not a good player. That's not what I'm saying. Because every time I talk 100%. About Jordan Love's deficiencies, people are like, "Oh, you think he sucks?" I never said he sucks. Did you hear me say he sucks? I didn't think he sucks.
I never said he sucks.
What I'm saying is, as Bears fans, Kyle, I'll say this: as Bears fans, when Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers was there, to us, you guys felt unbeatable. We were like, we're never going to get over the hump. If the Bears fix the offensive line and hire a damn coach, they're beatable. The Packers are beatable. They're a beatable football team. And you know what? The Lions are going to end up beating them in the playoffs if they meet each other. You can mark my words. The Lions will end up beating the Packers if they meet each other in the playoffs. No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
And I will tell you this, back to your comments earlier, Independent Aquaman, I don't really have any problems with the Lions. They've been a doormat in the NFL for so long. I'm actually happy for their fan base that they turned it around. One of my best friends in the world is a diehard Lions fan, and I promise you this, that 0-16 season, he wore a Lions shirt every single week. I'm very proud of your franchise that they turned it around, and I will be – if there's an NFC team that I'm going to root for, it would probably be the Detroit Lions, and I don't care that they're in the NFC North.
Yes,
they deserve it.
If a team goes 0-16, you deserve a Super Bowl in the next 10 years. I mean, that's insane. It's insane. Can you imagine watching that season, Sean?
No.
Imagine watching that season. Like, oh, you know what? We'll win the next game. All right. Well, you know what? We'll win the next. And then you get to the point of your season. You know what they were doing, Lions fans. They were halfway through the season, Sean. They're looking at the schedule. They're like, oh, God. I don't know if I don't see a win on here. And then they ultimately lost every single game that season. They deserve a Super Bowl. And you know what? I actually like a lot of players in the Lions, too. I like Hutchinson.
I do, too.
I like St. Brown. I like Jahmyr Gibbs a lot. I like Laporta a lot. Their offensive line is absolutely amazing. And you know what? The Bears should be taking a page out of the Lions book. You want to win a Super Bowl? Go build your offensive line like they did. And you'll be fine. You'll be just fine.
I'll tell you this. I absolutely adore Amon-Ra St. Brown, dude. His podcast, too, by the way, if you guys ain't checked it out, dude, he always has some stars on there, and he is a hilarious dude, man.
Yeah, and you talk about a guy who's amazingly pissing people off. That guy's the king, dude.
He talks so much shit, dude, but I love it.
And Sean, who's our favorite Lion?
Who's our favorite Lion? Jahmyr Gibbs?
No.
Oh, David Montgomery?
No.
Who?
Could be on the Bears next year.
Oh, Zietler?
Ben Johnson.
Oh, Ben Johnson. I thought you were talking about a player.
Ben Johnson is my favorite Lion, and I hope he's the Bears coach next year. I really do. And you know what? Knowing my luck, they'll hire Ben Johnson, and he'll suck. And I'll be like, I have to eat my words again. But
here, and I'll tell you this, Independent Aquaman, when Goff went over there was a big contingent of Lions fans around the way that were like, oh, we'll never win with this guy. He's just an average quarterback for being the number 1 overall pick. But, man, what Ben Johnson has done, what they've done in Detroit, building that line, they get the ball out quick. They pound the ball right up your ass. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing.
It's funny. These people that talk about how good Goff is or how Geno Smith's turning it around are the same people that are giving up on Caleb Williams after like 8 games. They're like, Jared Goff's awesome. He's amazing. And Caleb Williams is going to suck. Well, you think Jared Goff was awesome his first year in the NFL? No, he wasn't. Not at all. I mean, Caleb Williams can follow the same path as Geno Smith or any of those guys. Caleb Williams or Peyton Manning or any of the guys, Josh Allen, these guys who came in the NFL and struggled and end up being really, really good players. The thing that's still a light at the end of the tunnel for Caleb Williams is he still has those intangibles that cannot be taught. He has the throwing, the running, throwing on the run, the instinctiveness, the ability to navigate the pocket. Caleb Williams is always going to have that stuff. So as soon as the NFL starts to slow down for him a little bit, which in order to do that, you need a good play caller and a good offensive line, and the game will slow down for a little bit. Caleb Williams is going to be just fine. He's going to be just – now, listen, am I saying Caleb Williams is Patrick Mahomes? No, absolutely not. And I don't think he is.
You never know, though. You never know. I'll tell you this. When we interviewed Urlacher a couple of weeks ago, he even said his first couple of years, the game was so fast. And he goes, just all of a sudden, it slowed down. And he was like, holy crap, this game's easy now.
Yeah. And it's not even so much. It's not even so much that the game slows down. It's that your thought process speeds up because you're so used to seeing it. It's the same stuff day in and day out, same stuff in practice, same stuff on Sunday and game day. You start to speed up. You make quicker decisions. You start to notice. You start to notice the defense. Yeah, you start to notice the defense running certain schemes. You're like, I've seen this shit before. I know exactly what they're about to do, and that'll come for Caleb Williams. But the goal right now, guys, we'll say it one last time. You have to keep him alive long enough to make those adjustments. You got to stay alive.
Independent Aquaman, you're going to lose all of your coaches. I have a feeling at the end of the season. Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson, you guys are going to be left with Dan Campbell.
The Aaron Glenn one surprises me a little bit. I was going to talk about this on Monday's show because we brought his name up. But if you look at his success in totality since he's joined Detroit, their defensive rankings are not very good. They're not. It's not like they're one of the best defenses in the NFL. They've been better this year after they spent a bunch of money. But you're talking about him going to a team in New Orleans that's pretty much given up and just traded possibly their best player away on defense. Yeah. And being a good coach. If I were the Saints, that would not be my choice. If I were the Saints, I'd be doing everything I could to lose, draft a quarterback, and hire an offensive coach to pair with him. That would be my goal.
And there's going to be some good ones, man, from Cohen to Slowick to Ben Johnson.
Sean, don't you think with the Saints, I feel like they're kind of in a transition period. Maybe you would call it a rebuild or retool. Do you think it was kind of strange to re-sign Alvin Kamara? That threw me off, dude.
4 years and for an aging running back.
You guys, I'll say it this last.
Then they gave away Marshawn Lattimore.
It's weird. It's weird. Like, hey, what do you want to do with Alvin Kamara? He's one of our best players. Sign him. What do you want to do with Marshawn Lattimore? She'll trade that guy. That guy's awful. We don't want to pay anymore. Sean, this is the last time I'm going to say it. My rankings: Ben Johnson, Mike Vrabel, Liam Cohen.
I'm gonna go. Well, Ben Johnson's my one. I like Slowick next. I like Cohen.
You got to like Mike. How can you not like Mike Vrabel, man? That guy is
I'm not
a
against
consummate
Mike.
professional.
I'm not against Mike Vrabel. I just want an offensive-minded coach. I want to catch up to the 2024 NFL League, and I just want this century offense to be run in Chicago.
We'll say this though. I bet you Mike Vrabel is a huge offensive defensive line guy. I guarantee that.
Stefanski? No, I'm not. I don't think he's terrible. I don't want him here.
I like Stefanski.
Yeah. I just and I explained this I think 2 weeks ago. I like what Ben Johnson has done, the way he has fit the scheme to fit his quarterback instead of trying to fit his quarterback to try and fit the scheme. I like what he's done. He said, what works for this guy? This is what we're going to do. And this is how we're going to do it. And Jared Goff has gotten better every single year. I know he had 5 interceptions this weekend. Bad games happen. Everyone has a bad day at work, guys. But he had 6 weeks where he was unbelievable. I mean, he went 18 for 18 in a freaking game, for Christ's sake.
Well, but that 6 week span, he had more touchdowns than he did incompletions.
Yeah,
it's insane. Stefanski is a really good coach. He's a really good coach, man. I think that the organization has done Stefanski wrong. But as a matter of fact, if I was just Stefanski, I would get the hell out of there. I'd be like, you don't have to fire me. I'm out of here, and I'm going to go coach somebody else. I would be fine if the Bears hired Stefanski. I think that would be a good hire for the Bears.
Thanks for sort of indirectly answering my question. It's insufficient for me. I missed which question, man. Which question was it? You got to bring
John,
it back.
I think he's saying whoever commented in 4 stars answered his question.
Oh, gotcha.
Somebody Vernon or Dustin were commenting, and he answered.
2 head coaches of the year.
Yeah, I agree with that. Bearsky, you're 100% right. The ownership fucked them. That's 100. They couldn't word it any better. That what the Browns have done, the administrative decisions the Browns have made for the last 3 years are absolutely unbearable. You're talking about a team, Sean. You say you feel bad for Detroit. You hope they win the Super Bowl. God, being a Browns fan would be absolutely just. I would not be a Browns fan. If I was a Browns fan, I would no longer be a Browns fan. I would have jumped to the Bengals for sure. No doubt about it, dude. If I was one of those teams that, or one of those people that had two teams in my state, I would jump to the Bengals 100%. Sean, it's one thing to have a bunch of failures and not be a good team, but they are now parading a rapist out onto the field every Sunday for their fans to cheer for. Like, are you insane? That's now you're talking about morals. Now you're talking about I can't be a fan of the Browns because I have good morals and the Browns don't.
I'll tell you this, I do like this because I didn't know this about Ben Johnson. He took time out personally to spend weeks in homes, etc., where he could detail and figure out plays for Goff's strengths and hide his weaknesses. That's awesome. That's awesome. Like, Ben Johnson seems like a really smart guy, man. I don't know.
Well, hey, you know what? He says
I'm ready to bring him here.
He says Campbell doesn't micromanage, but I hope he manages because I don't think matteberflus does anything with the offense at all. I don't think he even touches it, and that's not acceptable from a head coach. If you're going to be head coach, you got to be head coach. It's that simple. And I'd still like to see matteberflus give up play calling for the defense, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. Sean, you ready to?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's come to that time where we have to make a decision on this thing right here. What are we going to do for the Chicago Bears, the Green Bay Packers on the lakefront this weekend? Well,
oh, this is going to hurt, Sean, but I got the Packers winning this game 23-13.
You said 20-13?
23-13.
I have what did I put in here? I forgot. I have the Bears losing 24-17, and I am going to say our 23 possession streak or scoreless possession streak will come to an end in the first quarter where the Chicago Bears don't score points. I don't know how this is going to happen. but I'm going to say that Thomas Brown's going to turn this around. He's going to
Aquaman, they're playing the Packers at home.
and they're going to win.
They're
Not
playing
win.
the Packers at Soldier Field. Breaking news, Bruce. I agree with you. Fuck the Packers. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. And I want to say thank you, Kyle Harris, Independent Aquaman. Dude, you've been awesome. Go Lions. It's not
Dude,
the Bears.
Ant-Mass,
So say that.
Ant-Mass, Bear Ski Film.
Bear Ski,
all
man. Thanks
you
for
guys,
contributing
man.
so much today, guys. Mike P. Who else is in here? We had a new guy.
Breaking news, Bruce.
Breaking news,
as
Bruce.
always.
Where's our new guy? I can't find the new guy's name. Hey, dude, you guys make it so
I think
much
his name
easier
was
when
Matt.
you guys are contributing in here. Dennis Moody, Elizabeth. Thank you guys, man. We really appreciate it. You guys make it easy and productive.
Kyle, as always, even though you're a Packers fan, we appreciate
Kyle,
it. And you know what, Sean, Kyle, your Packers comments do help us get through these shows, especially this week since that's the team we're about to play. But we appreciate everybody, man. We appreciate River Street Tavern in East Dundee, 102 North River Street. If you guys are out in the area, go check it out. It's a great bar. I work there. I'm a bartender there. Great atmosphere, great sports bar, a lot of TVs. And then we Ideal Amusements are our newer sponsorship guys. Also, great guys
Matt,
over there. Do a really good job.
That's the new guy, Matt. Thank you for joining us, man. We appreciate you, brother.
And Matt said, what was Matt's prediction, Sean?
Matt had it 21-17 Packers win. Pretty close to my score, right?
Yeah, not far off of us, Matt. Matt came in with like a Bears are going to win mentality, and that changed real quick.
What's going on, Trax, man? Thanks for checking in, bro. Appreciate it. So until next week, hopefully by the grace of God, we all say fuck the Packers. The Bears say fuck the Packers. And we know someone who does say that before we get on out of here.
Anything you want to get out there before we wrap up?
Shit. Fuck Green Bay.
All right. Yeah. Let's go.
Hey, man, bear down, everybody. Thank you guys so much. Everyone joining in the chat. You guys make it easier, as I said, for us. We appreciate you. Don't forget about the bare minimum tomorrow after 11:30. And Kyle and I are going to jump over to Chicago Sports Podcast, and we're going to talk more Bears because we love to be depressed. So that's what we're going to do. And hopefully you guys will hop on over there with us and enjoy some more conversation at the CSP podcast. Until next week, everybody, thank you for the love. Thank you for the support. Bear down. And one more time before we get out of here, just because it's a special week. Well, not really. Might not be too special for us, and we're out. Until next week, everybody. Love you. Appreciate the support. Bear down, everybody.